Okay. Oh, and I think last time I forgot to change the resolution here. Let's go ahead and do that too. You can see right off the bat I'm already having plenty of fun with that Power BI connection issue. It's working on my other workspaces, so I'm still trying to identify what might be different about mine. Um, but oh well. For today, I kind of just want to look at Power BI, clean up our model, figure out what's left to fix, and then maybe we'll sort of have it in a steady state to where we can set up some of the Power BI workspace features we've been talking about. That was another option. That was another option I was thinking about, is setting it up via a data flow, but we still don't have a workspace set up, so that's not quite going to work. So, okay, so this is the right resolution, perfect. So let's go ahead and get started. So we'll want to kick off our cluster, ingest some of the latest data, check on our nightly jobs. Let me move Mixer over here so I can keep an eye on that. Sorry, Streamlabs, I mean. Feels weird having everything named Mixer now that it's all on YouTube. There we go. Okay, so we get some participants in the chat today. As always, feel free to ask questions. Okay, so we're into Databricks. We'll check on our nightly jobs first. I haven't gotten any notifications recently, so everything should be good to go. Well, and I want to check, yeah, everything succeeded. And I want to check real quick. I was talking to one of my colleagues, yeah. He's on the same version of Power BI I am. We were thinking that it might be like a 64-bit issue, or potentially even a Databricks runtime issue. If there's substantial interest, I could experiment with some of that on this stream. I just don't know that it's the most interesting thing that we could spend our time on. Yeah, and I don't think I need ADLS pass-through enabled explicitly. It should just be an AAD configuration. And just a reminder of what we were looking at last time. While our cluster spins up. Okay, so over under this, yeah, this new Databricks connector. So, and I'll just walk through it all again in case you missed it last time. So we grab our server host name from our cluster configuration under the JDBC ODBC. So we grab our server host name, drop that in there, and then our HTTP path. This tells Power BI where to look at that host. And then we tried both import and direct query. I'll try direct query because import's what I was doing earlier. Might as well. There shouldn't be a difference for our use case. And you can see it's thinking through here. And then what it's going to do, let me go ahead and kill Teams real quick. Just for the sake of, because I know it's going to distract me, even if it doesn't distract you guys. So it's going to think real quick, and then it's going to fall back to that same connection issue we've gotten several times here. I think I've got a screenshot of it handy. Even, yeah, I think my screenshot app just crashed. My computer is not having a fun day, I don't think. So anyway, we should see that same error. One of the things I wanted to look at today too was some of our tables, for instance, for like beer, brewery, and badges, I believe it was. We're fixing in Power BI, but we want to go ahead and fix in the gold zone if we can. Really, we'd like to fix it all the way upstream. So, like, really deduplicating it here is just kind of a mitigation option for the fact that whenever it's brought in under into the initial delta table within bronze, that is creating duplicates right here because it's doing a pinned. And we could set up you know, to essentially overwrite on a write. We're kind of just like, think of it as fixing it in production and then bringing it all the way back. Yeah, that's just taking forever, but maybe it's because it's going to work. Who knows? Crazier things have happened. So what we would do is go ahead and write a view for this. So in our case, we can go ahead and run utilities and parameters. Okay, maybe this is where it's going to fail. Come on. I don't even think it's going to do us the, oh, hey, there we go. So it's going to work as a direct query. Now, that's interesting because we want it, we really do want it as import. I'm just passing that information along to the teammate I was talking about this with, because I'm really curious now to see if they had the same experience. So we could direct query all this. That would require our cluster running to do any transformations or querying, which we don't necessarily want. So we'll set that aside for now. But it's nice to know that it's an option. And then what I was going to show that was failing is the exact same thing, but in import mode. Not Excel. It sure would be nice if you could pin common data connectors. So he was saying he hadn't tried it in import mode, so that makes sense. And we might convert it. There's no explicit reason we couldn't do direct query for this. And really, if you're treating it like a true lakehouse, and for instance, you're using like a cluster pool, this would probably be the preferred way to do it anyway. So that's something to keep in mind for the future. So if we do import, it should fail pretty quick. Now this has been driving me crazy. Yeah, this guy. Interesting. And so what we could do up in transform, would be basically just to replace this source step. We very well might do that. because they'd all be the same. Yeah, this is, I guess, when it would be nice to have guidance from the chat, like we want to see this, we don't want to see this, because I'm tempted to just switch it over right now. Let's see what that would look like. So we're going to call this, I'm just going to make a new report and close this one. So let's do this, and I'll keep an eye on time. I don't want to spend too much on this. I do want to look at the gold zone, but let's go ahead and get data here. And when I say gold zone, I mean the deduplication stuff. Technically, that's bronze right now. Okay, so let's repeat this for the 100th time. Okay, let's let it think. Oh, come on. I really do hate that. Oh, come on. That was the exact same. That's what you get for, I guess, not leaving things alone, because it was working 5 seconds ago. Let's go back over to our cluster. Yeah, and all that should be the exact same, but we're just doing due diligence. Make sure we're in direct query. It's probably going to yell at us. Maybe not. There we go. It likes us again. Okay, perfect. So we'll go into Spark. We'll go into our default. We'll just grab all these guys. I want to go ahead and go straight into transform. So we'll do some modeling on this stuff. We can make sure our types are all good, that kind of stuff. Okay, we'll let that think. I don't want to make live commentary on Power BI just churning. Okay, so let's go over to bronze and let's think again about what's happening. So essentially, we know that this API is grabbing the most recent 300 beers at any given time. We also know that we have more than 300 beers total. So essentially, the most recent ones are being repeated. Now, we could convert this to just doing an upsert, which I'll go ahead and make a note of because I might want to consider. So consider using an upsert. So what that would do is only add new check-in IDs. The other thing I wanted to look at that I don't think made it in was the schema enforcement. So this should be so instead of reading from this, it should be reading from the Delta Lake. So I think that was just in a different like version or something. Let me see if that made it into Git real quick. Because essentially, we just need to do like a dbutils head command, and then we'll get that file. And we looked at last time, like if you give a head command with the full number of bits, then you can get the full file back. So let's see if it made it over here. Might not have. Yeah, that's what we're missing. So it made it in the workbook, just not here. Got it. Easy enough to fix. There we go. So that should be all good, taken care of. I'll make sure that this gets saved. Okay. So all that's good. So we could either fix it as an upsert there. We could fix it in place on the table. Like when we do this df write delta, we could read it back in and do an overwrite, which is also an option. I think where I want to do it is actually just in silver. At least as like an intermediate step. So we would do it over here when we first read in the data frame. Let's do this. So we should be dropping duplicates for check-in ID and all that stuff. So if we do, for instance, df raw and it might not like it because this is a streaming data frame. Yeah, so we can do trying to think of the best way to do this. Oh, I think I think I see what the issue is. So if we did like even a display, because we are dropping the duplicates here. So let's do a display, and then I'll show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so, or actually let's do a less raw one. Anyway, the point is, if we went through this, you would see, and maybe I just want to make a new workbook so you can see some of this stuff. What is today, the 14th? Let's go over to here. We can delete all this junk. So if I did a display of, for instance, beer. So we can already see you're going to get some beer IDs that are in there twice, right? Now, this is fine because that lets us see the total number of beers that have been had, right? Although, according to, let's double check Untapped. Yeah, according to Untapped, I've only had 302 uniques. So if we did, let's go back over to gold. So if we did this command where we're doing .distinct instead, then we should see something closer to that. Yeah, so we're missing some of them, which makes sense because we're missing some of the original history from there. So if we did, for instance, let's see what's in fact. Table. Is it called facts? Okay. So this should give us our date. Yeah, so if we if we looked at these duplicated ones, and we'll just do a join real quick. So we can do display. Let's do df beer is equal to spark.table. And we'll get beer, and then df facts is equal to spark.table for facts. And then we can do df is equal to, let's actually run this so I can get some autocomplete action going. So we get df is equal to df beer dot, and we'll do a join, and then we want to do it on df facts, obviously, and then we'll leave our join key in as check-in ID. I believe we can use, or no, sorry, we need beer ID. So yeah, we'll do beer ID. Or beer underscore BID. And if we do a display of this df, so we can see that these three so these two had the same check-in time. So let's do, in addition to this, a df count. Cool. So that's way too big. And then if we steal the same logic as we had on the silver table, so we're taking advantage of the fact that in df date fix, yeah, and these fold buttons have been broken. I don't know if it's just an edge thing, but out here you have check-in ID and created at available out at the high level. So we're going to do a drop duplicates here and verify that that's in fact working. So we'll do df dedupe is equal to df dot drop duplicates, and we'll do check-in ID and created at. And then we want to do df dedupe dot count. We can see that cleaned it up. So even though this table should be a source of truth, what happens is append. So really, this where is it? I guess it would be in functions. where we're doing this in a pinned mode that's causing the problem. So let's think about how we want to approach that. So essentially, it goes back to our upsert problem. So that's one that we can either fix in the gold zone, or ideally, we'd go ahead and fix it here, so we're only appending the new rows, which streaming is supposed to handle with this with watermark. So anything with a created at date over 24 hours shouldn't be ingested. So we're creating this data frame with a watermark. Let's see. Yeah, so we might have to think on that one. Let's add this to, because I don't think we can solve that in 20 minutes. So, in the meantime, what we can do, and this will be a good example of the direct query, is now that these are ingested in, and this is coming straight from the lake, you can see that like this has 726 rows, right? So what we could do is we can go ahead and say, like over here, come on. In gold, that we're going to have like a DF beer distinct, right? And then what we could do, probably help if I spelled distinct correctly. And then what we could do, since we have our functions library in here, is go ahead and use the right delta table with all that path logic. Because we have, well, and we'll want to bring in our paths here real quick. I guess we have raw query path. Let's go ahead and add in our parameters a sanction path, so we can use that too. Let's run these. Just so I can get some autocomplete going. And that way we have a place to put these. And then similar to how we did it in silver, let me find a good example. Yeah, where we're using the right delta table, we'll just take that same thing. I think this is hard-coded to use the query zone, so we might want to fix that. It is. So, we have to think about how to re-engineer that. So it's hard-coded to use the query path. We want to be able to use it with sanction zone 2. One option we have is registering it just as a view without necessarily writing it out to the physical zone. I think that's just going to be a little slow. So let's re-engineer this. Let's do let's think about this. And then this way it'll fall back. And then we can say if query or if zone equals query, then we'll go ahead and use what we already have. And then we'll say if it's equal to sanctioned, then we'll do our other zone. Let's do it like this. Because then if they fail to format it properly at all, I say they. If we do, since we're the only users of this, then it will not do any unexpected behavior. It'll just fail silently, which is what we want. So then that all works. And we could throw an exception if we really wanted to. I'm not that invested in it. And then here, we can do the same thing, zone. Come on, I hate this keyboard navigation sometimes. Okay, and then else if then we'll do this instead, just tell it a different path to look for. Use the location, and this will be and it'll probably bark at us for not having all the right imports, but we'll see. Maybe we'll get lucky. It's thinking. It's thinking. Okay, let's just assume that that works. We'll go ahead and redo this. Like re-import the functions library. So then we could literally say, write delta table, and then we give it df beer distinct. Come on. I don't know why I'm typing df and then hitting tab and it's doing an equals. Oh, so that's because that's the name of our variable in Python. So we do df equals df underscore maybe. Oh well. I'm with it now. That's funny. And then we'll give it a name. We'll call it df, or we'll just call it beer unique. Because really this is what it should be in the first place, but eventually the beer table itself should be doing this behavior. This is kind of just making it so that Power BI doesn't have to do it, just as an example. And we could push that out into the sanction zone. That might have been why it wasn't doing autocomplete. Okay. So let's do a try catch. Just to make it all smart. So we can do from exceptions import analysis exception. Let's see if it likes that. No module named exception. Let's double check this. I think this is from PySpark. And I guess it would help if I was on the same window as I was sharing, huh? It's not how we want to accept how to do an exception. We want to just catch it. So it's in Spark SQL. I don't necessarily want to catch it generically. So we have to decide if we want to do, basically if we want to double the try catch code or if we want to double the if statement code. I think this is the one to double out of any of them. So let's do try, and then we'll do an accept. Yeah, then we can do the same thing here. There's probably going to be something we need to redo, but we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. There we go. So for sanctioned, it should be in overwrite mode. So I'll change that. The reason for that is sanctioned is going to be like a view. We're not necessarily ingesting new data. We should be consuming everything that exists up to this point. And I would actually argue with the way that we have the silver zone set up, or sorry, the bronze zone set up to where everything's getting ingested into that big delta table. That should be the way silver works too, is those should be one-time tables. Because that's going to lead to less duplicates, for instance, for like the beer data. I like that. Okay, so let's do it like that. Because that's, like, in theory, we should only be capturing new data anyway. Let's think. Yeah, I like that. I can't believe I'm just now thinking of that, but and then that way, like we could try and do the append mode where it's only inserting new data, but I think this would solve the problem from the get-go. So let's try that. And then this should be. Okay. Let's see if this likes this. I think we can do it that way. Let me double check what this example is showing. Otherwise, we might have to import it. It's from. Let's see if we can't import it. I don't think there's an exceptions library. Then where do you live? So it's not, oh, I think it's not in functions, it's in Spark SQL. Okay. It's so interesting. Let's see if we can't find it in the PySpark docs. Guess we'll just catch. Yeah, I guess we'll just catch it like this. Yeah, none of these people talk about how to import it. They're just how to fix their underlying problem, which we fixed it. We can do an exception as X, that's fine. I just hate that. It's just bad practice. I'm just gonna do it like this. Undo all our hard work and just make it so that if it's coming from sanctioned, it's a batch. If it's coming from anywhere else, it's a stream. And I'm happy with that. Because we're not going to be doing any streaming queries in the gold zone, really. At least I'm not planning on it. We're doing table to table. If we're doing any big transformations, that might make sense, but let's go ahead and just leave it like this. There we go. Okay, so that's the idea. I know it doesn't really feel like we got anywhere today. At least maybe that's just how I feel, kind of all over the place. But I think we made good progress on several things. We'll come in next time and talk more about that silver zone stuff, like why the watermarks in a pin weren't working. I'm going to save this off as a new version, kind of work in parallel on it. That's based off the direct query, and we'll evaluate the pros and cons of that in a future stream. But thanks for tuning in today. Have a great rest of your week.